Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe podcast. I am your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co host, Joe.
Oh, boys, we're back. We are back.
Alcoholic beverage in hand, we are back! It's like I said in the beginning, like a few seconds ago, but I did it again.
Wow, Joe, you're giving them the behind the scenes stuff, eh?
Yeah, we're giving you the VIP tour of the backstage Joe and Joe experience. Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 19. This is the comics edition, and it is a special little thingy. This is the turning point, or as we said earlier, the paradigm shift for us in the comics realm of our little podcast arena. It is the end of Future State, the series that we started this revamp of ours on, and it's quite. I'm tearing up a little bit, you know.
That's beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
I yeah, no, it was actually kind of weird. I don't, I can't tell. Are you joking or like, did you actually feel like I thought it was kind of weird? I'm like, wow, I'm like a whole like, I'm like that was like 2 months of like comic stuff. I'm like, I now have this huge stack of comics in my apartment. I'm like this was kind of cool. I'm like, even though I think if you look at Future State as a whole, nothing crazy. I think I will always remember Future State. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Especially because, like this marks really the first time that you've picked up. I was gonna say ongoing series, but they're not really ongoing. But it's like this is the first time you've consecutively picked up multiple books at a time, which I'm sure is just. Uh, I remember when I started doing that, and like the first couple of series that I really did that with are, they're kind of special to me. And the fact that this is a nice little contained event for you, awesome. Um,
I was also
and
gonna
yes,
say that the when the guy at the comic shop knows your name by heart now,
mm-hmm.
I think I'm moving out of that newbie range. I'm making
Yeah,
progress.
you're moving up in this nerdy world of ours. Yeah, I love it. Every time I walk into my local comic shop, the guy there, he always sees me. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And I'm just like, "Hey, how you doing?" And we chat for a little bit, and it's nice. Um, I keep meaning to like open up a poll list with him, but like I only want to open up a poll list if I know I'm going to be here for a while because
Yeah.
like there are times where like I'll be somewhere else for a little while, and then
Hmm.
the logistics of all that crap. But whatever. But yes, getting to know your local comic shop employees is wonderful. It makes me feel so nice every time I walk in there. Um, but yes, so this week we are discussing the really only two. We're only recapping and reviewing like two books. Three. No, wait, hang on. That's not three stories. It's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven stories in total. It's a lot of Batman. So get everyone strap in and put your friggin' goggles on because we're about to blast off. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then we're gonna talk about some stuff coming up next week and possibly a bit more of the futury sort of stuff arena. Um, so let's start off with probably the least anticipated thing here, Red Hood, the backup for the Dark Detective story. What'd you think about this one, Joe?
So, they kept the same artist as last time, and I think that this art is great. I love it's very much manga style. Um, and yeah, I I liked it actually. I think the story's pretty funny. Um, Ravager or whatever her name is is I don't know. I think she's kind of funny, even though she doesn't get that much development in this little two issue story. I like how they did the little like foreplay joke. I thought that I was like, oh
She is
wow,
still super horny.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh, she's pretty wild. Um, yeah, I think this was an interesting story, a cool little take. Like, oh man, now Red Hood is wanted and everybody's out for him. Yeah, there were some things that I wasn't a big fan of. Like, oh my God, Joe, I hope you have this written down. When he puts on the Red Hood mask, the long one, like the the cylinder, it
Yeah, like
looks
the
so
OG.
fucking stupid. It looks
Well, he looks like
so
a butt
stupid.
plug.
It yes, I'm like he looks like a Tic Tac. I'm like this is.
Yeah.
I'm like, please don't tell me this was supposed to look cool. I'm like, this looks idiotic.
Yeah, it's not supposed to look cool. It's just supposed to be for people to go like, "Hey, it's Red Hood, but he's putting on the Red Hood, but it's not his Red Hood. It's Red Hood's Red Hood. Am I making any sense? Hey, why are you leaving? Wait, no, come back." It's something like that.
Yeah, that was the one thing where I looked at it, I'm like, ah, stupid. But in the story, I don't know. Visually, it's cool. Aesthetically, it's great. Story's fine. I like Jason and Ravager's relationship. Um, I don't know if that's just. I don't know. I think it's because I just liked the set, like the way the two characters, like their personalities. Even though you don't get too much about their personalities, like I could totally see myself reading more about them in separate stories. Um, and yeah, the only thing that I wanted to ask you about, which you can answer once you go through your little run through, is at the end, Jason's talking to this guy, or not a guy, but somebody in the shadows, and I just wanted to know who you think it was.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research into this because there were. I really had one idea in my head. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's this person, but I went online just to see what other people had to say about it. Some people think it's Deathstroke. They're just sort of like, it could be him. And I'm like, I don't think it would be him specifically because he has a line of, the sun's up, shouldn't you be like asleep or something like that, insinuating, haha, he's like a bat or a nocturnal or some shit. So I'm fairly certain he's talking to Batman. Um, they're keeping it vague intentionally, probably because uh, I was doing storyline stuff, but then also I don't think they would have cared considering the way this is gone. They would have probably just been like, yeah, it's Batman. But I think they kept it vague because of timeline shit and they were afraid of people trying to fit things together.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was Batman too, with that line about being nocturnal or whatever. I just wasn't sure. I'm like, is there something I'm missing that I'm just like, I'm just being dumb about? So thank you for
I'm being a little
answering.
smooth brain boy.
But what do you think? Like, are you a fan of this style? Like, what are you feeling with this story?
Specifically with the Red Hood story, you really like the art, and I can definitely see the manga inspiration. For me, it's a little, uh, I want to say cartoonish,
Yeah, it's a
even
little
though,
childish. It's a
yeah,
little cartoony and childish. Yeah, and I recognize that. I think it's just I really like that style, I guess.
yeah, there are times when stuff like that, like the more simple styles, are can be done really well. But for me, this one, I was just sort of like, eh. It's also weird seeing like a violent Red Hood and then a horny Ravenger in this art style. I'm just sort of like, it's a little tonal inconsistency for me, but also it's like,
I get that.
yeah, art is subjective, like what you like. For me, it didn't quite work, but also I think it's fine. Again, art is consistent, similar to like the Nubia Wonder Woman thing, where it's like it wasn't the best thing ever for me, but also it was consistent all the way through and it was solid. So I'm like, this is pretty good. And yeah, the story, it's just fun. He puts on OG Red Hood helmet and looks like a butt plug or a Tic Tac or whatever. And then he fights the, what is it called? The White Rabbit or something like that. I can't remember what her
Yeah,
name
yeah,
is.
White Rabbit.
Yeah. I liked her design a lot, surprisingly. I don't know what it was. It was like the fluffy jacket and like
Yes, I
the
liked her
suit
design
designing.
too. She looked cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool design, but you only get to see her for a little bit, and then bookends and future state for that shit is over. But for what we got of it, yeah, it was a fun little story, solid backup, I will say, to the
Yeah,
Dark Detective story.
out of most of the backups in Future State, I like this one a lot.
So then we can dovetail this into Dark Detective and what your thoughts would be on that, Josefina.
Well, this guy went 100% with the art. All of them, all four issues. Art in this story was fantastic. The colors are great, and the one thing I think I really liked, and I finally put my thumb on it with this issue, is that I like how some of these pages have one color tone. Whether that's, he draws it and then he kind of puts his color tone over it. I don't know if that's how he gets it done, but I like it. I really, really like it because it gives it almost it gives it like a neon vibe, if that makes sense. Like it looks like what a room would look like if you replace all the lights with neon lights, where everything's kind of a little green, a little blue, um, and I love looking at this book. I think it was fantastic. I think the cover looks pretty cool. Nothing crazy. When it comes to story wise, I like how Hannah, his roommate's daughter, I like how she got involved with the story. I think that was pretty cool. Um, I don't know what it is, but Bruce in this issue in the bat suit, he looks extra cool. I don't know. He looks, I like, the design is no different than it was before, but the way his face looks, the way the getup looks, like everything just, he looks really tough. Um, and yeah, the story, the actual like climax, the ending, there, this it was okay. Like I'd say it was a little bit underwhelming. The ending, like the ending was cool, um, but I don't know. I was expecting maybe something a little bit different, maybe a twist or something, or a big reveal. I don't know. But I enjoyed it. This thing is so cool to look at. I'm assuming we're going to get more expansion and development. I mean, you're the one who knows more about this stuff. Um, yeah, I think Dark Detective will go down as probably what, top three, top four future state stories.
Yeah, most definitely somewhere. I'd probably put like top three, top two, maybe. I feel like this and Yara Flor Wonder Woman are pretty substantial for me. For you, I know Teen Titans is going to be probably occupying that number one spot forever.
That 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 if a psychology student needs to study bias, come talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I feel similarly to how you do with the ending. Like narratively, it definitely feels like it's kind of a wet fart of an ending, even though it's
Yeah.
incredibly explosive. It
That's such great imagery. It's a wet fart, but explosive oh my god.
Yeah. The the story, it says this team is going to continue in the next Detective Comics, like Detective Comics 1034. Um, and I looked into it a little bit because I was curious. I'm like, because this is like a cliffhanger-ish ending. Like, are they going to continue this story? I don't believe so. From what it looks like, it's going to be taking place in present day as opposed to continuing on from future state stuff. So we're going to get the same creative team, but now they're going to be the ongoing team for Detective Comics, which will mark the first time that I think I will ever buy issues of Detective Comics. I've never done that before. I've heard good stuff about certain runs, but I've never actually like pulled the trigger and gotten volumes of that stuff. But having already invested into this creative team, I am interested to see where they take Batman with like a fully in continuity story going. So I am excited to see that. As far as art goes in this book, still Dan Mora. It's still great. However, I do think this is the weakest art of the series. Um, yeah, there.
Wow.
Yeah, the just the way that stuff, and it might just be the fault of the story and script because there isn't a whole lot of stuff in here that I think looks, iconic. Like there are scenes specifically from, I believe it's issue two. Yeah, I think it's issue two where he's like standing on top of like roofs and stuff like that, and it's just him in the trench coat draped in shadow, or him riding the motorcycle, like going down the streets of Neo Gotham and all that sort of crap. Like that art, I think, is incredible. The art in this book, it's a lot of the beginning is a lot of just Bruce sitting and talking to Hannah, and things of that sort, and it's a bit more mundane stuff. And then even towards the end, where he actually ends up going into the magistrate building, and there's people running around everywhere, and then him and Peacekeeper one fight. The fight is kind of nothing to me. Like I don't
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
feel that connected to it,
There's
mostly
no weight.
because yeah, there wasn't really anything. Like you kind of learn in the beginning, like oh, Peacekeeper 01, quote unquote, killed Bruce Wayne, and you know he didn't. And also, you don't know anything about Peacekeeper 1. Like, I know nothing about this man's. He takes off his mask, and it's almost drawn in a way that you're supposed to be like, whoa, this is some big thing. But it's not. Like, there's no weight behind it. And then when they end up fighting, it's just sort of like all flash and no substance, especially because it's just explosions going off everywhere. Um, so it felt like a lot of noise in the art department, but not a whole lot of the iconic imagery that we were getting in some of the earlier stuff. Not to say it's not good. It's still some of the best art out of Future State. But I do think issue 4 is probably the weakest issue of the entire Dark Detective run.
I respect that.
Thank you. I respect that you respect me.
Well, fantastic. Looks like we have some mutual respect.
About damn time. Anything else you have to say about Mora and Tanaka? Tanaka is the writer, I believe, right? So quick, someone look at it. Tamaki.
Tamaki.
Yes, Tamaki.
Yes. You took Tanaka and then added Takis in there.
I'm
Yeah,
just throwing
Takis.
syllables together.
Ooh, I haven't had Takis in a while. Might have to look into that.
Back on track, Joe. Back.
Okay.
Over
okay,
here, look.
Okay. No, I got nothing else to say. I did not know that it was going to continue. I mean, I saw that it was going to it gives the little thing like, oh, Bruce Wayne's story continuing, Detective Comics, whatever.
Mhm.
But now that you say you're probably going to pick it up, I'm like, oh, maybe I will. But we'll talk about that at the end. We still
Yeah.
have one more comic to go through because, yeah, we're hitting the paradigm shift because I mean, the two comics I have on my pool list are ones that I know you're definitely not getting. So, and there's one that I've been wanting to talk about with you, but I've been putting it off. But none of that. I have nothing else to say. Do you have anything else to say?
Not for Dark Detective. So let's move on to Batman Black and White Numero Trace.
Okay, let me start off with this thing.
Okay.
I really fucking like this a lot. I I don't know. Like, yeah, I really like this. I sent you the picture of my variant cover that I got, which I think is actually pretty sick.
Yes.
Um, Definitely it's edgy Batman as usual, but it's cool. It's really cool looking. And with this first story, I like the magistrate reference. I think that was really cool. I like how they went with the next Batman. Um, the art's pretty cool. Nothing crazy, but I enjoyed it. Um, I like the Batman's, excuse me, sidekick, I guess, if you could call her that.
Yeah.
She doesn't really
His
have
own
an. That,
his own kind of Robin.
yeah, yeah, she doesn't really have a name. I mean, maybe she has a name, but they don't give her a name in the book.
Mhm.
Um, and so this is next Batman. This is Jace Fox Batman, and apparently this is Jace's little sister.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Weird.
She's a badass, but and her design's pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know. I thought this first story was didn't blow me away, but I'm like, whoa! I didn't expect the next Batman reference at all.
Yeah, I did not expect that at all either. Like when I opened it up and saw the first page and they were like cracking at Batman's head with a crowbar. I was like, reference. But then when I got past that, I was like, I thought the mask was just some sort of breathing apparatus. But once they actually broke it and they all kind of paused, I was like, oh shit, it's because it's not the same skin tone. And then they're like, yo, why is he black? Real Batman isn't black. And then, they have all that sort of shit. And yeah, I was like, oh crap, it's the next Batman. Which okay, yeah, art in this story, I believe it's called the Calvary. I wrote down all the story, like I
Ooh,
referenced
look at
them.
you.
But the in the Calvary, this story, it's got good art, and I think this issue for Batman Black and White has the strongest art game across the board.
Yes, thank you.
Um, yes, but it almost made me like the next Batman suit, but there's still like the fundamental issues that I have with it that I'm like, no, still don't really like it all that much. But that's whatever because the story's like nice. It's a fun little thing where next Batman is trapped by these guys and they're a little racist or a lot racist. And then his sister comes on in as whatever little Robin character that she is. She reminds me of Amiko from Green Arrow, which
Yes, yes. I actually
yeah,
think I know that reference. Wow.
yeah, I don't have to explain it. But she reminds me of that, and she just kind of comes in and helps free him, and then the two of them take out. Actually, no. Next Batman just takes out the one guy who was being super racist to him, and punches him a lot, and then Amiko takes out everyone else, and I was like,
Yeah, she
God damn,
tough.
she tough as heck. And then they both ride away on friggin' Akira motorcycles. I'm like, there are so many Akira motorbikes in this series, like with
Dude,
Batman right now.
dude. I'm trying. I really, Joe, if you're ever looking for a Christmas present for me, I would love like a model Akira bike. Um, they're the on eBay. They're so expensive. But they're out there. They're out there, and they're so cool.
We'll start a PO box. We'll start putting in the description or something.
The GoFundMe,
The GoFundMe, exactly.
and like instead of get Alexa a Switch, get Joe an Akira bike.
Exactly. We'll just change the name on it. That's all we got to do. All right. Moving on to the next story, which I think is one of my favorite stories in this. A Kingdom of Thorns. What did you think of this one?
This thing really cool. This art is wow. Who's the artist in this?
Yeah, take a goosey gander.
Bildquist Evely.
It's such a
You
badass name.
you spent a lot of time on this. And even though you probably will never hear this, um, it's much appreciated. This art's crazy. So much detail, such a unique use of the black and white medium. The story is cool. It's a little confusing. I mean, I'm also a little brain boy, but it's a super unique story. Um, and I want to ask you, is this supposed to be like Poison Ivy or something? And then the
Yeah,
second
that's
and then the second thing was the final page. I love. I think it looks awesome.
fucking Renaissance shit looking ass. Yeah, it's Poison Ivy. I think it's. I mean, obviously, it takes place in a vastly different time because you have Sir Knight Batman coming on in. But yeah, it's Poison Ivy seems to be like Mother Earth almost, or Mother
Yeah.
Nature, I guess I should say. Let me push up my glasses and correct myself. Yeah, so Poison Ivy is kind of like a stand-in for Mother Nature in this story, and it's just kind of like it flips between the panels between the past and how Earth got to this point, which is sort of like, or how this location got to this point, where it's like a section of land that's completely protected by poison ivy and the green and all that sort of stuff, and then the present, which is uh, Bruce Wayne as a knight, is kind of like working his way in and infiltrating, and you don't really know why. And Poison Ivy's obviously trying to stop him, and I think she even ends up killing him in the very end. But then she realizes he was bringing back what the people stole from her in the beginning, which is depicted as like this just physical light almost, and I guess it's supposed to be some sort of power. So it's probably a metaphor for something. I don't know. I didn't look into it. But she realizes that, and upon receiving this, brings him back to life. And the final page is just a spread of the Batman night guy looking up at Poison Ivy, who's just kind of like in an ethereal position looking down. There's kind of like light coming out, and there's all this cool vegetation art everywhere. And you're like, this looks awesome.
Oh, it was really cool. Super unique. Like I had to read it a second time to kind of follow it and take my time and go through it, but I was like, wow, I'm like it really did hit me. I'm like the guy who wrote this, or I'm assuming that's a man's name, um, put so much, a lot of work into it, and it's much appreciated.
Yes. All right, moving on to the third one. We're gonna lightning around these things. I am the Bat. What did you think of this one?
I think it has really cool art. Um, the one panel of like the gangster car with the guns and stuff reminds me of Lupin the Third. If you're familiar with that at all.
Yes, I am.
Um, yeah, I really like the art. I think it's very. It reminds me like of newspaper comics, um, like the way that it's set up, and I like the twist at the end. I thought it was a guy the whole time.
Yeah, I kind of did too, but for a different reason. Like I when I was looking at this again, the art is nice. It's a simpler kind of art, but unlike the Red Hood one, I think this works for this because it's not, there's nothing that's like insanely violent or insanely sexualized or anything that like clashes with it. Uh, and it's a nice little thing, and you can tell there's like the monologue going through this Batman's head, and as I'm listening, I'm like, this is a weird depiction of Thomas Wayne, and I think in the first like page or two, I was like, this is probably talking about Bruce Wayne in the past tense. So I'm assuming this character is Damian. Like I thought it was going to be Damian Wayne had taken up the mantle of the Bat, and then at the very end, they take off the cowl, and it's some chick. And I'm going to be honest, Joe, I'm stumped. I don't really know who this is.
I have no clue who she is either. Like I was like, and I was hoping you were gonna know. Um,
The
and
only
I tried to
thing
like read through and try and figure out who she was, but uh, is it weird to say her face looks really cool? Like I like the way she looks.
Yeah, it is cool and stylized. I like her hairstyle too. It's like it's very anime esque almost. But the only thing I can think of is that there's a Tom King story going on called Batman and Catwoman, and I think in that they have a daughter. So this might be the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, but honestly, I have no idea. Like that's a very, very loose connection that I'm making. Or Carrie Kelly from like The Dark Knight, like that thing. That's because like it's she's got a similar hairstyle, but that's it. Like that's any that could be anyone is really what this comes down to. So I don't really know, but those are the only two possible connections that I have for it. Um, moving on to Unquiet Night. What did you think of this one?
This one's my favorite one. Um, this this is so. I think this is really fucking cool, especially because I love my gothic shit. This is full on gothic art, and I love it. I love the detail in this. I love not necessarily, yeah, not the horror, but the goth, how gothic it is, and how like how brooding and creepy Batman looks. I love seeing Etrigan in this. I'm like, hey, I know him.
I know
Um,
this guy.
I'm assuming that that's Raven in this. Am I right
I
about that?
I believe so. I don't know Raven's last name, so they
Yeah,
call her
he.
Raven Rose.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, is that Raven? If so, you get 3 more points from me, because that's my waifu. Um,
Oh boy.
I love this. The art style kind of reminds me of this really popular manga artist called Junji Ito. Are you familiar with him at all?
Yes, I know of Junji Ito and all of his horrors that he makes.
Yeah, specifically there's one panel here where I think is it Zaitana, her name? Where
Zatanna.
yeah, it shows like her wrinkles. Um,
Yeah, she like reveals the or takes away the magic makeup.
yeah, that one I'm like that really gave me Junji Ito vibes, and yeah, no, I really liked it. I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's really cool. I like the gothic stylings that they take Batman into because it's something that they don't do a whole lot these days. Like there are a bunch of stories in the past where there's like Gotham by Gaslight where it's like Victorian times, and there's the I'm gonna forget the name of the title, but there's the one where Batman becomes a vampire. I think it's like a trilogy of books. But there's a bunch of stuff like that, and this reminded me very much of those types of stories. And while I do think this art was good, personally, I think this was the weakest art for me. But that's only because it was kind of hard to follow things at times. But again, that's just me and the way I like my stuff being very like sharp, crisp lines and well defined things and shit like that. And then this one was very much like most of the page is black. It's like
Yeah.
there's just shadow everywhere, and it's kind of like okay, you kind of gotta look harder to figure out mostly what's going on. I definitely like everything's stylized in a much more gothic type of image, and I enjoy that sort of stuff, but it's not my favorite. So good art, but not my favorite. But also it's cool. All these stories are literally all these stories are pretty much winners in my book, which brings us to the last book or story in this book, Legacy. What'd you think of this one?
I have two notes, actually three
Okay.
notes for this. First one, I am so confused.
Yeah.
Second one, Akira question mark. Third one, Ghost in the Shell question mark.
Yeah, that's pretty much along the lines of what I have for this thing too. Like I have almost wordless because I like stories that convey everything through images. I think that's always really cool, but this one has a little bit of wording at the end. However, that only serves to further confuse me because I have almost wordless, cool art. What the fuck? Those are the only three notes that I have for this story, and that's all I need to remember, like what's going on. Because it's like it starts off with an establishing shot of like a dystopian city, and you see people like doing farms, and then all of a sudden there's this big robot, weird spider thing that kind of crawls up. And then it gets punched in the face by a mecha Batman, and you're like, what? And then mecha Batman pulls out a gun and just shoots the ever loving bejesus out of this weird mecha spider thing. And then are they on the moon in the middle there? I don't know. Like it changes settings, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then Batman gets out of Mecca, presumably still on the moon. I really don't know. And he arrives someplace, again, I don't know, where there's like a party of like higher ups, like the top 1% going on. And they say something along the lines of like, descendant of Wayne, you can relax or something, or like come join the party or some crap like that. And then Batman removes the mask, but like the cowl stays on, and then says something kind of edgy, and then the peasants that were in the dystopian city kind of run in and start, I'm assuming, massacring the one percenters, and then it ends. I have no idea what the fuck any of this book was about.
Yeah, this thing was really, yeah, I liked it. Like, I was like, okay, interesting. Like, I didn't mind it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know what I just read.
Yeah, very very strange. It's solid because the art is pretty good throughout the entire
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
but the story, I there's probably a message in here somewhere.
But I
I'm
don't know where it is.
I don't know where it is, and I've stopped looking for it. But overall, I would definitely say Batman Black and White #3, art across the board, pretty great. This is by far the strongest for the art department. Stories also pretty solid. If you don't think they're good, they're at least worthy of a what the fuck. So Batman Black and White, pick it up. Even if you haven't picked up the other two, that's the best thing. It's all anthology. Doesn't matter. Pick this one up. It's great.
Exactly. Um, Yeah, so it was pretty. I enjoyed these two reads this week, um, but things changed this week, Joe. We're moving
Mm-hmm.
on,
That they
and
do.
what are you picking up this week? I want to know. I am very interested.
Okay, so the stories that I am picking up this week are as follows. It's actually quite limited right now, so I'm going to be picking up Batman 106. I was already on that like thing before Future State, so I'm going to be continuing the Batman series. Jorge Jimenez is on art, which, oh good God, it, I fucking love his art, man. He's very good, real good artist. Um, I'm gonna be picking up. Uh, I'm blanking on the fucking name of the initiative. Infinite Frontier. I'm picking up
Number
Infinite
zero.
Frontier. Yeah, number zero. Because that's going to be like your ground floor. Here's what's going on with the universe. It'll be the first thing that really lets you know what's going on after death metal. So that'll be interesting. And Christ, what was the other thing that I was going to be picking up? It's completely slipped my mind. You mentioned your books, and then I'll get back to mine.
Was it Swamp Thing?
No, it was not. I don't believe it was a. I don't believe it was a DC book. I'm fairly certain it was an. Oh, it is an indie book. It's Nocturna. I was talking about that I wanted to pick up because that is the Scott Snyder indie book that he is starting this week. Snyder is like real big with the. He wrote Dark Knight's Metal and then Death Metal, one of which I really liked, the other which I did not. But I'm interested to see what his indie book looks like. So those are the three things that I'm going to be looking up. What about
Hmm.
you?
Noctera. Interesting. Looks pretty cool. Okay. So me, um, I was a little iffy. I was like, I saw that Infinite Frontier number zero is coming out. I'm like, hmm. I'm like, is Joe gonna get that? I'm like, is that a thing that people get? I'm like, am I like, do I know what I'm doing here? So thank you for telling me. So I'll probably pick that up. But what I am picking up is I'm picking up the next issue of Blade Runner 2029, number three. So I'm excited to continue that. But what I am most excited for is oh boy. Joe, do you know an artist by the name of Peach Momoko?
I am not familiar.
Oh my god, Joe. When I had the gram, I followed her and I loved her art. And then, I hopped off the gram, so I've just completely forgotten about her. So,
We're talking about Teddy Grahams, by the way, just so everyone knows.
damn,
Joe was a
Teddy.
massive addict. He met her at the rehab center. I probably shouldn't say that. She's probably a nice person.
Joe, I think we have a story on our hands here. um, so she's awesome. And I was scrolling through the comics that were coming out for this week, and I saw this one cover. I'm like, yo, that looks like Peach's art style. And then I see her name at the top, and I was like, oh, yeah. So I am picking up a Marvel comic. It is Demon Days X-Men number one by Peach
Ooh.
Momoko. Um, and it is oh, I'm excited. I don't really know anything that much about the series. The cover got my attention. The fact that Peach is on it got my attention. Um, yeah, just the general aesthetic of it. All oh my goodness, and all the different variant covers, depending on which ones are going to be available, it's going to be hard for me to pick. Um, they have a lot of Asian artists, variant cover artists on this, who do a fantastic job with the art. And yeah, and Peach also did the story as well. So I don't know. I'm really this has everything that I love. It's got a female lead, female writer. Um, it's Japanese style. It's X Men, like all this stuff. Where I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely a pickup.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it does look pretty cool. probably wouldn't have picked it up if you weren't, but I'm thinking I should, just so I can explain to you what's happening because you probably don't know this, but the X-Men have been going through a renaissance at Marvel recently. Jonathan Hickman is currently basically revamping the entire X-Men side of the universe. So I, unless this is like a one-off thing, which it might be, but I'm not sure. This is probably going to have some sort of ties to Krakoa and all the different sort of weird crap going on in there. So I'll probably have to explain some of this stuff to you.
Yeah, this is book 1 of 5 of the Demon Days saga.
Okay. Limited series. I'm a fan of these because there's an end point. So I will. You know what? I'm probably going to pick this up as well then.
Yeah.
You
Whoa.
got me on the Demon Days bandwagon.
Oh man, well maybe that means I have to pick up Noctera now.
Perhaps. You don't have to because I'm pretty sure Noctera is an ongoing. So it's like, if you want to keep up with it, that's going to be commitment. But we shall see.
Commitment. Oh boy, my wallet doesn't like commitment.
Ain't that just the truth?
Joe spends his money on comics and coffee and carbs, the 3 C's that make the world go round.
That's wonderful that it's just 3 C's. You can make that a business card and then just hand it out to people on street corners.
I might have to think about it, but yes, those were the 2 ones that I really wanted to talk about, specifically that Demon Days comic. And yeah, when I get there, maybe I'll pick up a little bit more, a little bit less. We'll see how it all goes, but yeah. So is it? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about? I feel like there was one more thing.
I don't believe so. I'm pretty sure that was everything as of right now. I know that there are future indie sagas that I want to go into, but we're not going to get into them just yet because they're like a month away. I've just heard about them and I'm like, oh, cool. And then we'll go into that later on. But so next week we'll be covering all those books that we just talked about. Maybe more if we end up getting anything else. Probably not, but we'll see. You'll have to tune in to find out. Ha ha! Fun. But yeah, it is the closing of a chapter with Future State here, which is so. I'm a little sad, just a little, but it's interesting.
It's been a cool experience. I don't know. Feels weird to say we just made it through like 2 months of comics of like this
That is
little
weird.
event.
God, we've been through 2 months. I'm still not done with thesis.
I've made progress, Joe. I feel somewhat in control. It's very strange.
Yeah, you and me both, but I'm still like, I got a ways to go, but I'm making ground. Let it be known for all the people who give a shit about our thesis.
Well, that's what we like to hear. And Joe, get us out of here.
Yep. Alrighty, so everyone, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube shiznet. And with that, I will say I love you, I'll leave you, and I'll see y'all next week, baby. Bye-bye!